Okay, this lesson for our Cornet project class is an update on the breakthrough in Bible research concerning the divine ratio that distinguishes between chronological and then geological age or decay, showing that a person can have full 100% confidence in the genealogies of the Bible, and also notice that there is geophenomenal reality. An update because from the University of North Carolina, and it's their computer science department. It's the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and it's titled More Bad News for Radiometric Dating. Radiometric dating, and they speak of what happens when magma solidifies and melts and its implications for radiometric dating. Now, just to review very quickly, the work that Dr. Penn did that led to the breakthrough was 6,250 years at 12-hour day. That was, Jesus said there's 12 hours in the day. And of course, or you could title this, I'll tell you, we'll title it Preacher Proves Why That Sundials Don't Work at Night and Frozen Food Doesn't Decay. How about that? That'd be a little more lighthearted, since some people get a little bit frustrated when they try to work these things out. So let's go ahead and include the night, since um, we know why it wasn't there. So there we go. So nighttime. Oh, that's good. That's good and dark. That'll work. So night. So then we just take our line here and take 12,500 years at 24 hours. And that gives the total day and night. So we'll just put day, night. And then you remember that one day is 1,000 years, 1,000 years a day. That's the chiasmus inversion in the Bible. So if we took this that many years and we multiply it by 360 days, it equaled 4.5 million days. And we just took a moment and multiplied by 1,000 years. And all we had to do is change our unit measure from days to years, and then add 3 zeros. And that equaled 4.5 billion years. And then that's the geophenomenal. It's what let's just go ahead and give us a superordinate category here. There we go. Geophenomenal factor. And then you remember we come this way, 1,000 years a day. We took the 4.5. So take the 4.5 times 1,000, this time 1,000 days, which we noticed that was 2.78 360-day years. That gave us 12.5 billion years. So that would be that phenomenal factor that's being measured, the total of all that was involved in producing the friction, the heat, the decay, the speed rates, and all those things, especially when we talk about velocity and catapulsion and things like that. So even those who advocated an interval between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2, it wasn't chronological. There was no referential time between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2. That wasn't until later in Genesis, when in time, as chapter 2 says, God was repairing this, making it habitable for man. So that whatever the alarm is over billions, it's because either science doesn't want to indicate that that is not chronological, or people don't want to stop and think and notice. But this good news here to show from science again, it says this magma solidifies and melts, its implications for radiometric. Is it possible that these physical processes, so let's put one here, physical processes, like we learned in about the catapulsion, when God's judgment on that original creation. This here says have an impact on the determined radiometric age of the rock as it cools and crystallizes. Time is not a direct measurement. Okay, so the ratio proves that. So time is not, so we just say it's not 1-to-1. That is, one chronological year will not produce, according to even radiometric dating, one chronological year. It says the actual data are the ratios of parent and daughter isotopes present in the sample. Now, let me see. If you go back to our high school chemistry introduction, let me say an isotope is all of the atoms of which a particular element is defined, or it is the parts of that particular element, without which you don't have that particular element. And it concerns chemical properties. Now, well, I'm thankful my chemistry teacher, Mr. Screeton, has gone on to be with the Lord, or else I'd be embarrassed. But the nuclides, that referred to a species of an atom. Species of an atom with a specific number of protons and neutrons. And carbon-13, for example, carbon-13, 6 protons, 7 neutrons, but you all know that. So when we talk about isotopes, we're talking about actual focus on chemical. It emphasizes chemical properties. And that's enough of that. There we go. Chemical properties. So we have now chemical properties. We have the reality that time's not 1-to-1. We have physical processes. We have GEO-PHENOMENAL factor. So he says time is one of the values that can be determined from the slope of the line representing the distribution of the isotopes. Back to that. Isotope distributions are determined by the chemical and physical factors. So we have physical and chemical factors. Chemical and physical factors governing a given magma chamber. He said, I think we can build, or whoever wrote this from the Computer Science Department, University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, I'll include this in the description. I think we can build a strong case for fictitious ages, that is, they don't represent chronological reality. Fictitious ages in magmatic rocks as a result of fractional crystallization. So this is describing, so we can put number 4 is fractional. You can look that up. Fractional crystallization. Now, you'll notice that's a Greek word too, crystallize, and then geochemical processes. So now we have geo-phenomenal, which includes geochemical, which is amazing, isn't it? This is the type of stuff when you have a scientist for your hermeneutics professor, an engineer for your systematic theologian, as a systematic theology teacher, and then you have a linguistic scholar as your language teacher. They're very comfortable with critical thinking. So these fractional crystallization, geochemical processes, so you can see how all this is omitted when someone just says, well, we say 4.5 billion, the universe is 12 point, and I'll just be gracious, approximately 12.5 billion, universe, the earth, that. And you notice, before I forget, that number 2.78. Now, Dr. Penn, we're just using integers, third grade arithmetic, because 1 day to 1,000 is a ratio. Inverse relationship of division is multiplication. So you notice this, and I'll just put the approximate equivalent to the number E, which is 1828, and that repeats 1828. So without using any, if you will, carrying it out to any more factors than that, we just used integers. So as we've seen, we cannot ignore geochemical effects. So we have geochemical effects while we consider geophysical effects. So you have the physical processes, and the chemical and the physical, and then we'll just put here the geo/physical effects. And then that's all in context of time. So, of course, I went to Grace Evangelical Society. I can always count on them. And I found the article that Dr. Bob Wilkin had written about the age of the Earth. And in it, he quotes from AIG, who writes, when a sample of lava at Mount St. Helens crater that had been observed to form and cool in 1986. So here's what's known. The magma at 1986. So it was observed in 1986 to have formed. So 1986 it formed through its fractional crystallization and cooling process, formed. Then it says it was evaluated in 1996. It said that that equaled, it contains so much argon 40, well, we'll check that out some other time, argon 40. Yeah, we can cover that at the Lamp Theological Institute, where we can really get into the science and enjoy that. That it calculated age of 350,000 years. So we know that that is not chronological years. Because we noticed from 1986 to 1996, so at 10 years, we had 350,000. So you can see there that 1 year there would be as 35,000 years. So you notice that ratio. So the problem for radiometric dating is when you exclude this reality from what generated this result, which we're all biased. I mean, those scientists who don't want to, let's say, disclose the fact that chronological years can yield a much more dynamic, because we have geophenomenal factors, physical processes, times not one-to-one, an isotope focused on chemical properties, fractional crystallization, geochemical processes, geophysical effects, so you have causes and effects, and then whatever that is, we'll look that up again and go back before I start misspeaking, because I just wanted to show you this an update. So from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill Computer Science Department, they went ahead and disclosed all of this. And then at Grace Evangelical Society, they included examples like this. So this would be 1 year is 35,000. Notice that it would cause that. So what this is chronological. And this is geophenomenal. And that's enough of that. That's why, again, when you enjoy studying the Bible and you don't find yourself involved in construct fixity and you aren't averse to science, since from the Bible, physics, calculus, and chemistry were all derived, then you can enjoy it. So this is why I like to say in humor and make it a little bit funny, this is why how you can prove that sundials don't work at night and frozen food does not decay, because 4,000 years ago, as late as 4,000 years ago, they say a woolly mammoth was unearthed, or not, I guess he was thawed out, and they found green grass in his stomach. And if you said, well, how old is that grass? Well, it looks like brand new grass. But it wasn't exposed to geophenomenal factors, so where it couldn't incur decay. So yes, you could set that grass next to grass today, green grass, and there is no difference in their ages, because one's new and one had avoided what would have caused a result to read. But we know the woolly mammoth, however many years ago that actually was, because it's difficult for them to manipulate chronological time when you're only measuring the geophenomenal factor that gives you an answer that can be so far off from chronological reality that even among scientists, they may not have a vested interest or even know of what they're speaking. And then, of course, for us out here bantering young versus old. None of us necessarily want to collaborate, to improve our knowledge and come to collective learning results and outcomes. So you have a blessed day. Enjoy this lesson.